Well, hey there, and welcome to week 6 of Understanding Revelation. I just did a video on understanding what 666 means, and now I'm going to go to outlining. This is the study with me where I kind of walk through how I would be studying Revelation as I'm reading it fresh, which in a lot of ways I am. And you can find all of this on the website in the link below if you're watching on YouTube. And so we actually have this broken down in a more of a course format there. And so you can see, you can view all of these courses. We are in week 6 right now. I should update that color. And we are recording for this study with me right now. So let's go ahead and dive back into where we are. So we are in chapter 14 through 16. And so what I'm doing in this study with me is I'm just going to be kind of looking at my outline and adding the new content from 14 through 16 into it. So here is the outline. It looks really messy, but there's the problem with Revelation is it's complicated. So when you start outlining, your outlines are going to be complicated too. So I'm going to take this in kind of chronological order, and actually, let me think about this. I'm basically having going from left to right being chronological, but also from up to down. So it was difficult to get everything in a natural chronological order because it's kind of more like Inception where it's going inside. And I tried to do it by zooming in, but that was just too much zooming to work. Let's pull. All right. So this is something I added here, and that is chapter 11 through chapter 11. And this was the section about the birth of Christ and the fall of Satan. And this appears to be a flashback chronologically, that this is looking back to before Christ's ascension, whereas everything else in Revelation was starting from the starting point of at least when John was receiving the vision. So that was the church, which was already in existence in Asia. And so this included the details of a woman who I think could be representing the true Israel, the true people of God, giving birth to the Messiah, and then being protected by God in the midst of persecution. We have the death of Christ being the force that defeats Satan in heaven, and he's thrown down to earth. And we have this idea that what's happening in Revelation is Satan on his kind of last legs, having already been defeated, kind of waging war. And we realize at this point that it's going to be an impotent war against God's faithful people. Moving forward chronologically, we then arrive at the start of the book, and we have the 7 letters, and these are to the 7 Asian churches. We saw that in week 2. Then next, chronologically, we have John is taken up into heaven in a vision, and he's going to see these series of visions that we've been looking at so far. The first is the 7 seals, and on the 7th seal, which is the trumpet, we have the next section. So this 7 trumpets is actually taking place in here. It's right in this seal. So if we're looking at it chronologically, this is the stopping point, the trumpets, because everything that's coming after is fitting inside it. So we've got these 7 trumpets. We have some various interludes coming in as well. And then that brings us to chapters 12 and 13. And this is where we have the dragon and the beast. We have the mark of the beast. We have 666. And all of that appears to be taking place kind of in this number 7, in the 7th trumpet, with the final judgment. So it's maybe right before the end of the trumpet. Maybe the trumpet starting is initiating this, but it's not complete. So we have this idea here of Christ's reign in the 7th trumpet. So it's a little difficult for me to see where to fit all of this in, but it's somewhere in here, in right before, right at the beginning of the 7th trumpet. We've got the dragon, we've got the 2 beasts, and then we have a blessing and judgment. So this blessing and judgment appears to be talking about what's happening in the 7th trumpet. And now we have unleashed what's described here as the last. So in 15:1 we see 7 plagues, which are, this is a footnote here, I guess I'll delete it, the last, because in them the wrath of God is finished. So it's got this picture of final judgment, and that's what we're outlining today. So there we go. We have our 7 bowls of wrath added to our list. The first was sores for those who worship the beast. The second was blood that was killing everything in the sea. Third, blood in the rivers, springs as punishment for... Oops, I spelled saints wrong. Blood of the saints. There we go. And so we have here this idea that just as the worshipers of the beast were persecuting Christians, and just as the beast themselves were, the judgment is coming for those actions. We have the sun scorching the earth. We had seen as a sign the sun darkening, and now it's scorching the earth. We have thrones of the beast, so the bowl is poured out on the throne of the beast, and all of those who worshipped him are gnawing their tongue. In 6, we have a bowl being poured out on the great river of Euphrates, preparing the way for the kings of the east. And then we have our interlude here. Remember, in each of the other 7s, we had various interludes, usually after the 4th, but we don't see that as clearly here. We do see that the first 4 are related to each other. Just like all of the previous 7s, the first 4 kind of go together to make a complete whole of this holistic picture. And then in the last 3, 5, 6, and 7, it shifts away from that big picture to something a little more unique. And so we had often had interludes after the 4th one. This time we don't. But just like the 7 trumpets, we have an interlude here. And that is going to be this Battle of Armageddon, which sounds quite exciting, but when you read it is actually pretty boring. It's not many details at all. So we have this dragon and stuff's coming out of his mouth. We have this big picture. And then look at this. This is the description of Armageddon. And they gathered them together to the place which in Hebrew is called Harmageddon or Armageddon. There we go. That's... let's see. Is this actually found anywhere else? So this has been pretty significant. I think when we hear the word Armageddon, it's like a word used for all of this stuff. There's a movie after. It's kind of this end of the world picture. And it seems like it would be really significant. And this is what we've got in the Bible for it. So very interesting. And then we have number 7. And this is described as the last, the final one, that the wrath of God is being fully poured out. We have the city split. We have severe judgment. And it feels like we are at the end of Revelation. If we've read it before, if we've been looking ahead, we know there is more to come and the story is not quite over, but it feels like it's reached a climax. It feels like the end of this 7th trumpet, right? That this trumpet for final judgment has been sounded and it is here. So there we go. That is our outline for Revelation. If you've been doing this at home, I hope you got room for it because it's getting pretty big. And we still have more to go. So we're going to be extending even further. But this is what we've got so far. We're going to be breaking down how to interpret these 7 bowls in the next video. That's going to be an in-depth study looking at 4 ways to interpret it. And so I'll see you with that on Friday. And as you continue your week, God bless as you read Revelation. I hope that it is opening your eyes to some new ways to read it and that God is speaking to you through it.